The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Wrestling to the Max, Monday Night Raw, Review.
Welcome, everybody, to Wrestling to the Max's Raw Review for February 13th, 2017. And we want you guys to know that we are brought to you by W2Mnet.com. That's right. It's where you can find all our great reviews like Raw, SmackDown Live, NXT, and even 205 Live, plus our regular episodes of Wrestling to the Max every week. You get a double dose of those. So go check those shows out on the W2Mnet.com, along with lots of other great content in the world of wrestling and some universal kind of things over there that you may want to go check out, like some sports. So we appreciate you going and doing that. Also, hey, whatever you're listening to us on, maybe it's iTunes, maybe it's Stitcher, or maybe it's some other place that you got, download your podcast. Make sure you subscribe to the W2M Network. Yeah, if you haven't already done that, please go do that now. That'll get you all our great content, and you don't have to worry about anything at all. When it comes out, you have it in your dock. Besides that, I just want to let you guys know I'm your host, Gary Vaughan, and tonight, Mr. Sean Garmer, the normal guy who kind of runs down Raw, is taking the night off. So, Mr. Paul Leazar, like always, will be joining us. Let's do this thing, Paul. Let's talk some Monday Night Raw.
Yeah, let's go ahead and dive right into, because I would say this was very much a give and take Raw, and mostly on the taking away and giving you a lot of boredom. So.
Simply put,
they open the show with the usual talking. Stephanie comes out. She's given Mick the night off due to his issues with Joe and everything else that has sort of gone pear-shaped on her in the last couple of weeks. Braun is scheduled in a match tonight with Mark Henry, and Roman Reigns comes out as he wants to obviously get some revenge on Braun, who's been attacking him nonstop recently, and Steph pretty much shuts him down and says, "Look, man, you're not, you're not where you used to be. You lose, and you're just not that top guy anymore." And now, sort of baits him into the ring and says that she does have a match for him. And then out comes Gallows and Anderson, who jump him from behind, and big brawl breaks out. Referees separate them, and then that leads us into the handicap match where Roman Reigns proceeds to make the tag team champions look pretty silly, if you ask me.
Yeah, and, just kind of getting to the start of this whole thing, you pointed out that, it's Stephanie and Roman Reigns sitting here having their little powwow. And, usually Stephanie gets the better end of most people, and to an extent she doesn't really lose a lot here, but it is kind of funny every time that she's in the ring with Roman Reigns. They kind of let him do most of the outshining, if I can say it that way. She usually doesn't overpower him. And I think that's, of course, on purpose. I think that you've seen the same thing with John Cena in the past, if we have to make that comparison like always. That's fine. That's whatever. I get it. And then the addition of Gallows and Anderson to this whole thing, though, coming out and basically saying, we don't like the way you're talking to her and all this, playing the White Knights. They're playing the chivalry here for Stephanie McMahon, which, I guess if you want to suck up, it's probably your best thing to do. Outside of that, though, these guys don't win. And sure, they beat down Reigns. Sure, there's a match, and the match is basically, called off, DQ'd, whatever you want to say, because of the fact that they just basically pounce on Reigns at the end here when they can't get the upper hand, just playing this thing off singles-wise. So I like that part of it, if I can say it that way, because these guys are not the guys laying. I fully expected Gallows and Anderson to be the guys laying in the middle of the ring while Reigns' music plays and ha ha ha, everything's going to be fine. I do like the fact that Gallows and Anderson do get a chance to beat up on him, but I don't know. I still think that, this doesn't make Gallows and Anderson look good at all. It's kind of a shame. I don't even understand why they even put them in this situation. I get it. They're heels. I get it. They're guys that you can beat up on a little bit and maybe get away with it because no one's invested in those guys a whole lot. Mm-hmm. But that's not, Paul, that's the thing that we've talked about a lot. I mean, it's a shame. These two guys are kind of being the pawns just to, I don't want to call them jobbers, but they're on that line of, hey, you can beat us up if you want. And that's not good. I think Gallows and Anderson are a little bit above that.
Yeah, the reason why I think this looks silly is, they get DQ'd for beating them up, and they look great there, but people continue to not to care about them, and then not winning matches, and them not getting a chance to really look strong. Because at the end of this, Roman pretty much walks away after, fighting off and beating him up and then running away, which is whatever, but they need wins, and if this turns into something where maybe Roman is going to start chasing tag titles or whatever, then that's whatever at this point. But certainly I think that you really need to focus on trying to make these guys look as strong as you can, and I don't know if this necessarily does that.
Yeah, well, this is exactly the thing, and I don't understand why they would do this. I mean, it goes back to my thought process of, sure, no one's invested, we can use these guys, but they're your freaking tag team champions, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, doesn't that mean anything? I kind of feel like it should. So you're, in essence, saying, oh, these guys who hold gold with this company are just, they're just there. No, I mean, my God, the New Day held those belts. They made them shine. They made them bright. And why can't you give the, Gallows Anderson a little of that too? Mm-hmm. It's really frustrating, I think, for a lot of people who know Gallows and Anderson, who followed these guys for a long time. If you're not invested in these guys, you don't know these guys from New Japan, you don't know these guys even further back from then, you are probably sitting here saying, these guys are dumb. What? Mm-hmm. I could care less. I mean, I can't wait till those belts are off these guys, and it's scary because it's almost the younger crowd or the crowd that doesn't know them very well are going to start having that go home heat. Like, we don't need these guys. These guys are worthless, and that's a shame because we both know these guys are awesome. So mm-hmm. I just hate it. I hate it with a passion that we're going that route.
Yeah, and this could work out much better in our favor, but as of this week, it's just, it doesn't look like they have a bright future ahead of them. So
yeah, oof, shucks.
We're gonna jump down some of the show here. We're gonna talk about Braun's match with Mark Henry. Goes for about 5 minutes. Braun does the win. WWE likes to keep Mark Henry at least looking like he can handle his own, no matter who he's in there with. So Braun sort of gets beat up here and there when they really need to keep making him look strong and unstoppable. After the match, Roman Reigns comes down. Braun Roman gets in the ring. Braun tosses him out to the floor and keeps challenging Roman to come in and get him. And Reigns finally comes in, hits the Superman punch, and keeps beating on him to finally stand tall after Braun has really just been taking, the majority of this feud and beating the bejesus out of him.
Once again, we get our dose of Roman Reigns, multiple times, and that's fine. I guess because this makes sense, these two guys are feuding and all that. And I want to say this, Braun Strowman does look good against Mark Henry. That's exciting. I love the fact that they did have the power struggle. Not the first time we've seen this, though. This is what Mark Henry does. I mean, Mark Henry, especially against big guys, he's that whole measuring stick. Are you really that tough? Are you really the biggest guy here? And that's what's kind of fun, exciting about having a guy like Mark Henry. He can do that, and he doesn't have to be on TV all the time. So he played his part very well. Lost, none the different from what's usually Mark Henry's role. But still, Braun Strowman looks good there. And then you have the Reigns incident, and if for this thing to work, I agree. You have to have Roman Reigns look good, because otherwise people are going to come into Fastlane saying, what's the purpose? It's just a beat down for Roman Reigns. But I will say this, for a guy like Braun Strowman, who's been dominating this entire roster, or at least to the people that they've put in front of him, this is kind of one of those where I'm like, man, now you start to wonder, okay, so is Roman Reigns that great? He's just so great that he's the only one who can humble Braun Strowman. And to me, it's maybe a little petty, but I kind of feel like, maybe Braun Strowman shouldn't look even that weak. Maybe weak against Roman Reigns, but not as weak as sometimes they make him look. I mean, they make it look like Braun gets lucky to even, knock down Reigns at times. That's what I kind of feel. It's almost like there's a reverse role of he's now the Sami Zayn, and Roman Reigns is almost the Braun Strowman. Like, he has to get lucky to get Roman Reigns to knock down. That's the way I feel, and maybe it's not that coming across to everybody like that. But I don't know.
I think for most of this feud so far, they've really let Braun look the strongest, and Roman was due for something like this. So I don't necessarily have a large problem with this. I mean, everybody in a feud with Braun so far, whether it's Sami Zayn or Roman Reigns, has had an opportunity to show that they can at least hang with him at certain points. And this, I think, tonight was just and the right time, admittedly, to let Roman at least look like he can hang and throw fists with Braun for some time, And yeah, they've been catching each other by surprise most of the time, and all these other things. But certainly, you can't let, and WWE's not going to let Roman look like he can just get run over by Braun. They're not sailing the ship on Roman yet, obviously.
Yeah, but I understand that. My point is, those Reigns last week was the upper hand. Last week, he's the one who left Braun in a daze. Laying outside the ring, if I'm not wrong.
Wasn't last week when Braun power slammed him through the guardrails, or am I thinking 2 weeks back?
I think it was 2 weeks back.
Okay.
These guys have kind of gone back and forth. They really have, and that's a good idea. That's a good way of doing this. That's the only way you're going to keep people invested, and I understand that. It's just, I think I'm thinking of it too strongly, and to be honest with you, I'm looking too much into it from a fan perspective, I think, because I'm trying to be objective.
Right.
But I think Braun Strowman has a great future ahead of him. I really do. I like what he's doing so early in his career. He's still, green in some areas. He's still trying to become that full-fledged wrestler that we all want to see him be. I always kind of compare him to Big Show. When Big Show was the Giant, he wasn't the cleanest. He was not the guy that he is today, and it took him a long time to get there. And I think Braun Strowman has that potential. So I'm making something out of something that really shouldn't be. But I should also kind of look at this too and say, like you said, Paul, Roman Reigns is going to get this, no matter who he faces. He could face Brock Lesnar, and he's going to get this type of thing going on. He's just a guy they want to sell. He's a guy they want to be the future, and I get it. I just have such high hopes for Braun Strowman, and I hope that they're not starting to put some chinks in that armor. I want this guy to be so dominant that it's going to take some serious people to come in and beat him. So I just look at it that way. But this needed to all take place. I really don't have any problem, honestly. I'm sitting here complaining about something, but I didn't really have any problem with what they did here tonight. I was just kind of making that comment about Roman Reigns.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I overall I agree with you. This Braun and Roman is a nice feud for what it is, right? And this is just simply two guys trying to prove who's the bigger beast out of the both of them, and that's great. But I don't think they're going to short sale Braun in this, because I think they have high hopes for Braun. It's not us inferring. The way he's been running through people, they clearly want him to be something large, and they've done a pretty quick job of slingshotting him towards the main event scene on Raw, and that's great, because we're talking about a scene that desperately needs a new face in the mix, and Braun could certainly be that. It's just how far are they going to let it go is now the question, because with WrestleMania around the corner and card questions abound everywhere about whether we can trust what we're seeing so far, even though some of the pieces are pretty clear. I feel like Roman and Braun maybe aren't so clear, and obviously they're building up to their big match at Fastlane right now, and they're going to worry about everything else later. But surely, I think there's some question marks about whether Roman and Braun are going to make it to WrestleMania and all that, about their feud at least, not their physical beings.
Exactly, and that really, how far is Fastlane? I forget when Fastlane is. It 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
11th, I think.
Okay, so we still got a little distance.
Yeah, we still have a little bit of time.
Yeah. So you're right on this, and I think that these two guys won't be mixing up at WrestleMania. That's not going to happen because really Roman Reigns will be in a major picture, and Braun's got a ways to go before he may be close to that picture, but he's not there. So I'm expecting by the time we get to Fastlane, there'll be a decision made that'll change things. I don't want to be speculating too early on that because I think we're too far out, but I think that at the end of this whole process, I'm just hoping that both guys come out of this looking good. And I think they will. I think they like both these guys. Mm-hmm. I just get a little nervous, and that's fine. I think that's just me. So it's good. For right now, from what they're doing, it's fine.
Yeah, let's go ahead and move on. Let's talk about another big heavy hitter that they sort of work these next couple segments into a lot of the show here. So Samoa Joe, Triple H, earlier in the evening, they show up in a limo together. Samoa Joe does a sit-down with Michael Cole where he talks about how he's sort of been unleashed by the creator, Triple H, and to be the destroyer of everything. And he's proven that, right? He's injured Rollins. He's taken him off the board, and this has pleased Triple H greatly. And he says he's not going to be like a Sami Zayn who's just happy to be here. He wants to be the guy who Triple H can rely upon to beat people up and take care of everything. And Cole mentions Triple H's past relationships and how it's all burned down because obviously HBK, Randy Orton, Batista, Seth Rollins, the list goes on of guys who Triple H has sort of left behind once their use has subsided. And Joe's comes back and says, they needed Triple H to hold their hand to get the job done. They very much relied on each other. I don't need Triple H to do what I do because I am who I am. I'm Samoa Joe. I kill people. It's what I do. And if anybody gets in his way, he's going to prove it. And that is best for business. And quickly after that, Sami Zayn has a match with Rusev. And it goes 10 minutes or so. It's not too shabby. Sami does win with a haluva kick. And after the match, Sami gets on the microphone and says, hey, man, I keep getting knocked down, but I always get up and I keep winning. And Sami brings up his little mention from the Samoa Joe interview and says that he doesn't do the works of others. He's not here to take shortcuts. He doesn't sell out. He's here to be himself and get there the right way. And out comes Samoa Joe. And Joe just beats the crap out of Sami. Oh, my God. Throws him around the stage, chokes him out. And that's that. And boy, with the Seth Rollins injury, there's no better opponent, I think, for Samoa Joe to face than Sami Zayn, who that match is going to be great.
I couldn't agree more. This is exciting. These two guys, I'm sure on the indie circuit they face each other multiple times. I'm assuming that I don't know, Paul. I mean, these guys have probably been around together, right? I mean,
they've both been in PWG and Ring of Honor at the same time. They've probably had matches in other independents that I'm not aware of, but I'm sure their paths have crossed before.
Yeah. So at some point these guys have seen each other, and I'm sure at some point they've had a little chemistry. Maybe not a lot, but at least we know that these guys have probably mixed it up before. But that's not the point of this. The point of this is to kind of talk about the fact that this is going to be an exciting feud. I think it is. Another tough opponent for Sami Zayn. Just like Rusev. I love the way they kind of do this in a way because I think Rusev, as much as he's really been kind of out of the scene of being a dominant figure because he's been kind of doing the whole tag team thing in a way, weird way, I guess you would say, without being a tag team with Jinder Mahal. I think that Rusev played that big tough guy in this match, and Sami Zayn was able to win and do it with clean and look great doing it. And I love the fact that Rusev lost his mask. I love it. That nose guard, that was hilarious. But anyway, I think that sets you up perfectly. Really does for this whole thing with Samoa Joe, because here's another huge opponent, a guy that a lot of people would say, Sami Zayn, you don't have any chance in hell winning against this guy. He's just too tough for you. And Sami Zayn's been proving people wrong, right? He's been doing it all the time. Kevin Owens was a guy they really didn't think he had a chance. All these different people that they put in front of him. So this is really, really cool. I think this is a good thing. And I do want to say I like this interview. I really do. And especially for those that don't really know Samoa Joe, don't know a lot about him, I think this is a great way for him to present himself very well spoken. And it's so great that they brought up the fact that, there's been so many lackeys under the umbrella of Triple H and even Stephanie, if you want to throw her in this mix. And it's never really worked out for anybody. So them bringing that up to Samoa Joe was a great idea. And for his response to be what it was, hey, they had to hold Triple H's hands. I don't. I've done this. I don't need anybody. I'm just here because someone gave me an opportunity. I love that. Yeah. I think that's so great. That already puts him in a different echelon compared to those other guys. There's nothing wrong with Batista. There's nothing wrong with Seth Rollins. Any of these other guys, Randy Orton, that they mentioned, these guys are champions. These guys have proven. But this puts Samoa Joe in a realm of he's not under anybody's thumb. He's just there to beat the crap out of people, and they need that desperately. They need a guy like this. Samoa Joe, man, I'm so excited. I can't wait to see what he does. This is so great. This is, to me, Paul, we talk about the Wyatt family situation on SmackDown probably being the highlight. I honestly could see Samoa Joe being a highlight for Raw. It's a little early to say that, but I'm already kind of more excited about it than anything else on Raw.
Yeah, I mean, we're 2-3 weeks into his debut, and he's already he's crushed every segment I think he's been in so far, in every match, and everything that they've had him do so far. He looks like he keeps getting more and more important, and that's what you want, right? Samoa Joe is a guy who absolutely deserves all these opportunities. He's such a great wrestler. He's been around for so long, and they've done a great job, I think, already of building up that aura that I keep talking about a guy who just looks so dominant and so beast at what he does. And Joe has a whole nother element to him where he can work, he could choke you out, and he has this sort of, almost submission background that really puts him over the top and makes him different from guys like Braun or Brock or Goldberg, who dominate that big monster scene you have going on over here on Raw. So I'm I'm stoked for this match. I love this promo. It's all good stuff happening here. And on the flip side of that, I mentioned Triple H showing up in that limo. He ends up going backstage into Kevin Owens' locker room and appears to be having a discussion with him. So it only took them, half a year? But they're finally touching back on the Owens-Triple H relationship.
Yeah. He's been busy. He's got to run NXT. He doesn't have a lot of time on his hands.
Right, yeah. Shows up, screws Seth, leaves.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So that brings us to the big festival of friendship, and boy, does Jericho go all out. He's got sculptures, he's got art, he's got magicians, he's got showgirls, he's got Gilbert. He's got Gilbert, people. He brings him out because he's saying that there's no way Owens does not walk out of Fastlane with the Universal title, and that's going to be because friendship is magic, and he's going to help him do it. And so out comes Gilbert as to show off what they're going to do, and Owens hits the floor and just beats the bejesus out of him. Owens comes back in and says, it's going to be Goldberg, not this guy. So Jericho quickly backtracks and sort of apologizes and saying, I thought it'd be funny, and I just wanted to prove how much you mean to me. And Jericho says that he's never really gotten along with anybody like he has with Owens, and I would point him to Jericho, but that's neither here nor there at this point. Anyways, we get along in the segment. Owens says, I got you a little something too, man. It's not big, and it's not nearly as extravagant as what you got me, but here you go. And he hands him a new list, and it says the list of KO, and Jericho's name is on it real big at the top. Owens puts down a huge beatdown on Jericho, trashes all the gifts, and attacks him with the list. And boy, if we're setting up a new authority with Kevin Owens and Samoa Joe there, we got some stuff to look forward to, even though we're going to have to try to get through whatever junk they're going to do with Lesnar and Goldberg. But this was glorious. Owens beats him up so bad. Jericho is busted open, and I mean, boy, did I don't think we knew a turn was coming, Gary. I don't think we knew it was going to be this great.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And I didn't have any idea it was on this episode of Raw. Yeah, what we were all pointing to post Fastlane, right? Like, Kevin Owens is going to lose his title to Goldberg, and then it's going to be Jericho's fault, and that's when it all turns south, and which would have been fine. But in a way, this is weirdly awesome. I don't know how else to say it. I mean, I love the surprise for me. You could kind of see the writing on the wall now that I look back at it, because of the fact that Jericho was really playing a big, huge baby face. All the gifts, the kind words. I mean, when he started talking about, this is the one of the best teams he's ever been a part of, him and KO, that just screamed right there. That whole honest, sweet, kind verbiage, that just right there, that's the softest Jericho you've seen in a while. So I like all this. I love the destruction. The Gilbert was hilarious. It was fun. I'm glad they brought that back. I was kind of thinking, are they ever going to do that? And they finally did it. So Gilbert, really cool, great appearance. And just these gifts were hilarious. I love the painting of Kevin Owens and Jericho. That was so funny. But what's really cool is that we do, it looks like we do have that authority that's just got two monsters, two guys that are dominant, two guys that really, are going to be a tough force to reckon with if anybody wants to mess with the authority. And so I'm really looking forward to that story, Kevin Owens' explanation, all the above. And, it also makes me really question where Jericho's going to be headed, right? I mean, is Jericho even going to be at Fastlane, or is he going to try to screw, Kevin Owens somehow? That's what's fun about this, is you have a lot of questions coming out of this. And it's not questions that frustrate you. It's just questions that excite you. Like, okay, what's next? I want to know what's next. And that's a really positive way to feel after you come out of something like this. And, it is kind of sad. I think all of us have really enjoyed Chris Jericho and Kevin Owens and their adventures and everything that they've done and all their promos. It's just been a lot of fun, but everything must come to an end. And it's okay, because I think this is going to lead into something maybe even better.
Yeah, I think it was pretty clear that this match was going to be going down at WrestleMania between these two once the aforementioned Lesnar-Goldberg rematch had been mentioned. So, I mean, absolutely, their run together was terrific. It made Raw, it gave you something to watch Raw for, which they didn't have a lot of great reasons for you. And,
yeah.
They knocked it out of the park, and now you get to move on to the part where, obviously they're gonna have the match at Mania, and if Extreme Rules is Raw, then this is something that's clearly made for that setting too. So we'll just we're gonna keep on going with this ride, and I'm anxious to see where it goes to, Gary. No doubt. We're now to sort of talk about some of the lows before we get to our last high point here. The Cruiserweights get 2 segments. Jack Gallagher beats Noam Dar. Short little 3-minute affair. Gallagher does win. After the match, Neville comes out and has the stare down as Gallagher won the #1 contendership last week on 205. Neville also got an interview to sort of run down Gallagher and says, he pretty much doesn't care about him right now. He's got TJP tomorrow, and he's looking forward to making somebody else bow to the king. Later on in the evening as well, Kira Tozawa defeats Arya Dabari in another 3 minutes, and people have very quickly taken to Tozawa, and I think that speaks a lot, not only to the placement that they've given him on 205 Live, but he's such an interesting person inside the ring to watch. He's different enough, and he interacts with the crowd, and you don't. I don't want to say you don't see that often, but I don't think we've ever seen somebody do it as quickly or get over this quickly as Tozawa has, especially in the Cruiserweight division.
Yeah, and, it is something as simple as, ha! Mm-hmm. Ha! I won't continue that. It'd be kind of annoying if I did it. But, it borders that sometimes when he does it 55,000 times. But I do enjoy it. It does get over with the crowd. And I'm a little surprised, honestly, because I wasn't so sold that the WB Universe would jump on that so fast. Mm-hmm. I kind of thought maybe it would have to grow on people, but it seems like people are really having fun with it, and they're enjoying it, and it's interaction, and interaction is always a very exciting thing for wrestlers because that means that the crowd cares enough. So that means something here, and you're right. I mean, I'm a little bit surprised of how quick this guy has kind of, gained interest and gained, maybe some support from this crowd and crowds, that have seen him in the past. So I do think that, Tozawa has, something going on here that's really positive, and, it's good because the cruiserweights need this really desperately. Let's be honest. Jack Gallagher, his comedy, the things he's done to really get with the crowd and get the crowd behind him have been really positive for the cruiserweights. So this is some momentum that I don't think really we have seen. I mean, we've kind of seen the cruiserweights borderline on the edge of, do people care at all that they're on Raw? Right? I mean, so many people kind of just downplay it. It's like the quietest part of every Raw. Now you're getting to see some of these true characters come out and be a part of these shows. And it's actually something that, I think Vince can look at and say, okay, and now I'm seeing some momentum. Now I'm seeing something go somewhere with this division. Because I from what we've heard and rumors, they've considered even taking the Cruiserweight division off of Monday Night Raw. So, and I don't know, they still probably could if they really didn't like it. But you're right. Tozawa has something going here, and I'm excited to see where they're going to go with it. And the only thing, and it's not really, I guess, a too bad a knock, but it's kind of interests me. His finisher here is fine, but it's also something we've seen other wrestlers do, yet, it's something usually you see a kick out. So is it just the fact that he's just so good at this finisher or what? I don't know. Because it doesn't look any more impactful, I don't think, than anybody else does. That's what I kind of wish he had a different finisher.
I think that's a fair point, and I think that more speaks to what sort of has happened in wrestling in general these days, where these bigger moves, like a German suplex or a DDT or super kicks or whatever else, have sort of just become, I don't want to say filler, but they're leading spots towards, man, that's a big move, but he's going to kick out, obviously, or whatever. So you might have a point there. At this point, I think they just don't want to change too much because he's obviously he doesn't have a ton of experience wrestling in the States. He has wrestled at PWG on multiple occasions, but nothing of the sort that he's going to be tackling now. So I think it's just they want to make sure that they have something here for us before they start messing with the package too much. And then I think that's a safe way to go, especially with somebody who it seems like they have a lot of interest in succeeding very quickly here. Obviously, I mean, because he's only been doing squashes so far, and he's looked great in all of them. So
exactly, and I will say that tonight's cruiserweight section of the show was okay. Mm-hmm. I think Tozawa is doing great, but I don't know that it overly got the crowd so excited. I mean, they were cheering for him to an extent, but it wasn't super loud. It wasn't the high part of the show. And both these guys we were pointing out are great, but I don't know. I don't think this was the strongest night for the cruiserweights. It was fine, but not the strongest I've seen, I think.
I mean, I think this is the usual stuff you get on Raw. It's all lead-in for 205 Live, is what it really feels like. And to a degree, I'm okay with that, because obviously the goal is to get people to get by the network and watch the show on there and really get familiar with these folks. And I think to a degree they're successful to that every week, but you have the largest audience, obviously, you're going to get on Raw. And they don't seem to really... They either don't care enough, or they don't seem to grab the scope, or they're just so that in on the network that they want people over there.
Yeah, and that's a great point. I mean, I really didn't put that in perspective, but that's a great point. I mean, tease the people a little bit, give them a little bit of something, and then say, if you want to see more and you want to see a better quality, watch 205 Live. Go buy the network, and that's probably what they're doing here.
Yeah, I think that's what they've been on for a while, and especially if they do move it, then that you're going to lose, I think, a big piece of the puzzle that might even have a chance of getting people interested. So we'll just have to wait and see. New Day busy work continues. They come out, they make fun of Bo Dallas prior to their match. Kofi gets in there, pretty much squashes him in 2 minutes, and then they force feed him a bunch of bootios. And yeah.
Well, New Day's, New Day. You get your little comedy here. Not the best night for them, but you can't win all the time. I really don't think so. And, maybe they don't really need a win here because of the fact that they're not having any significant matches. So, They're still selling themselves, that's exactly what they need to do. But it wasn't overly great. It was nothing special. I mean, as sadly to say, I love the New Day, but as someone who kind of does watch NXT and does watch Monday Night Raw, pretty much all the WWE stuff that they have on their product and this is for a while now, I kind of look at Bo Dallas and just get sad.
Mm-hmm.
I just get sad because I really felt like they were starting to turn a point, like when he started playing this super just mean heel and they were getting him over and he was squashing people. And then it's like on a whim, hey, let's just go back to Bo, you just lose. And I hate that for the poor guy. He's got this new look and he's, I'm sure, trying, but it's just a shame. It just really is. And I don't know. I was joking with a guy, like who's the next, list of guys that get released, and it would not surprise me if Bo's a part of that because they do not have a direction for him. So
there is that, but I mean they love these legacy guys too, like Joe Henning, Mr. McGillicuddy over there. He hasn't been doing a whole lot around here either, and he continues to have a job. So I think they at least have that going for him as far as continuing to get paychecks. But I'm with you. Bo had a lot of promise, I think, coming out of NXT with the gimmick that he had, and they seem to be on it. And I think it got over for a little bit, but I don't think he has enough of the other side of the equation in the ring to keep people interested, because he wrestles sort of a little bit of an old school style. He's got some new school flair in there every once in a while, but he's very, I don't want to say bland, but he's a little boring in the ring sometimes for me.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with that at all. I mean, I do think that he does kind of have that style, like you're saying, the more of the old classic style. But I just think that the guy has put a lot of work into it. And, that's just me behind the scenes kind of looking from that point of view. Like, man, this guy sure put a lot of hard work into this, and he's not getting any fruit out of it. So, I mean, this happens. This is the way the wrestling business happens. I'm just, over here feeling bad for a guy that, has done it. But, like you said, they haven't released, the other legacy guy. So let's just hope that they keep him around. If they do these type of things with him, I guess it's fine because he's getting a paycheck. I just, I worry about these guys because I keep seeing them maybe hitting the road and being on the independents. But actually, that may not be a bad idea. I mean, maybe, heck, he goes to independents and may succeed super amazingly. We've seen other guys do that. So we'll have to see.
There's a lot of success stories out there for those kind of guys. And WWE signing up guys left and right. So, I mean, these spots, they're probably going to be a lot more coveted than ever now. So
yeah. I look at a guy like Juice Robinson and think about it, CJ Parker, who?
Yeah.
So
who was that?
So you never know. If they do release Bo, he'll be something else great. We'll see. But I hope he stays around.
I agree. I agree with you.
Oh, and what about the ice cream? Is the ice cream going to happen? I mean, they keep pimping this ice cream. Do you think this is just a joke for the New Day?
I mean, if anybody could sell anything merchandise-wise, you got to believe it's the New Day right now. But as over as Punk was whenever he was trying for the ice cream thing, he never got it.
Yeah.
I don't have high hopes, but it could. You never know. Never say never.
True.
So one last thing before we get to the ladies. Sheamus and Cesaro are backstage with Bayley trying to hype her up for her big match tonight when Enzo and Cass comes in. Enzo continues to do this, and I have to wonder if there's going to be a bigger story behind this down the road, where Enzo keeps yapping his mouth and getting them into trouble, and Cass sort of has to come in and save his butt from Sheamus and Cesaro just tearing him a new one. This does lead to a match later on where Enzo and Cesaro go one-on-one. Cesaro just obliterates him in 2.5 minutes, which is absolutely what it should be. And I have to wonder if WWE is considering moving Enzo to a role where he's not in the ring anymore. Because that is certainly what it feels like every time they do this stick with Cass, where he opens his mouth and suddenly he's in over his head.
That it may not be a bad idea. I think I would have to, look at Enzo and say, it's kind of a shame because, he probably enjoys being in the ring, but there's nothing wrong with that role. There's really not. And for the fact of the matter is there's not a lot of managers in WB. They just don't have them, really. I mean, people, I guess you'd consider some of the ladies valets, Maurice, different people like that who kind of do that job. And Enzo at least can get in the ring if he had to. But you're right. This is kind of interesting because every time Enzo's in a singles match, he's losing. Very rarely does he get a victory in a singles match. And it is always about Big Cass. Big Cass this, Big Cass that. And I think that, the guys backstage, when I'm talking about the guys backstage, I'm talking about Vince and some of the other, officials, are looking at Big Cass and saying, man, we love his height, we love his size, we love everything about him. If he just wasn't part of this tag team, if he just didn't have to be a part of a tag team, what could we do with him? So that could be something we could be seeing in the near future. I think you're pretty dead on that. I could definitely see that happening. And it won't be a bad thing because what do we love about Enzo? Is really what we love about Enzo, his in-ring work. Is it really that, Paul? Because for me, it's not that for me. I love him on the mic. That's what he does best.
The reason why Enzo and Cass work so well together is that Enzo is so great on the microphone, and Cass has really blossomed into a pretty solid in-ring worker. And they complete each other. That's what makes them such a great tag team. But when you have Enzo alone, it's glaringly obvious that he's a very one-sided worker, and that's all the microphone work. And he is great at that. He has his off times, don't get me wrong, but more often than not, you get something either really entertaining or really, really good out of him. And that's what you want. I think Enzo, with a small contingent of just big guys, could actually get somewhere. Guys like Cass or whoever else they want to pair with him. He could probably get him over, even if it's this fun babyface way, or if it's in that heel role that they keep teasing here, where Enzo is just running people down because his mouth gets the better of him, and suddenly he's got to send in his boys to go deal with the work, and that's okay for me. I would be completely all right with that.
Yeah, me too. I have no qualms with it at all. I think that, this is something that could be, happening sooner than later. And however it works. But, as long as Enzo's still with these guys and still doing what he's doing now and yapping like a little chihuahua, it's enjoyable.
Right. So that leaves us with the two big things left. Emelina finally makes her debut and says that, her makeover is now almost complete, and it's time for her to, make her premiere and start showing people the difference. And then she makes her exit, and she has a rather evil glare about her. And if this is just that evil hitman look, almost that same Kenny Omega look, just, more of a female bend to it, then I'm all for that, really.
Yeah, and I need to be refreshed. I don't know if in your notes there, if you have her quote, what she said, but it's interesting to me because what she says is, you finally got Emelina, and now you're going to get Emma. I think that's what she said. If I can remember, my brain's working right. I think that's what she said, and that's what confused everybody. In fact, when they went backstage and they were kind of talking about it, was about, wow, that was kind of odd about Emelina. So I think, the heel thing, it makes sense for her. She's made everybody wait all this time, all this Emelina, and then comes out, gives you kind of what you want, and then I think she's going to take it away. I think that's what we're getting.
We will now see her makeover from Emelina to Emma, and then she leaves.
Yeah.
So if it's reverting back to that same thing that she had going, they desperately need another top heel, I think, to let Charlotte, if they don't want her to have the belt and they want to keep that title feud fresh. We know Emma's a great worker. We know Emma has what it takes, and if they really let her go with it, I think they'll have another breakout act on their hands for this division.
For sure. Exactly. And it's also fun that they've teased this whole thing for so long, this Emelina thing, and getting the crowd all pumped up for it and excited, and everybody just thinks, oh, this is great, and now with it changing, it's going to give her some crowd heat and all that, and that's positive, especially if you want her to come out and do everything you're saying here, even contend for a title and all that. It's really important to have some momentum going in, fresh off of being gone forever.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and we saw kind of the way that people reacted to Mickie James, right? Everyone's kind of confused, huh? And I think Emma's been gone long enough that kind of maybe get some of that. So this is the best way to do it. They did a great job. I'm curious to see how this is going to go.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. So let's get to this big main event. The Raw's Women's Championship is on the line. Charlotte defends against Bayley. I should mention that we do get another segment with Charlotte earlier, right before the match, where she runs into Sasha backstage and just runs her down for how big a loser she is. And they don't want you to forget that the other ladies are waiting in the wings to make that big multi-woman match. And boy, do Bayley and Charlotte go out here and put on something to remember. Right up there with all the matches Charlotte and Sasha had last year. It's got the big fight feel. Bayley has to fight off Dana Brooke, essentially, but she finally gets the big win after Sasha shows up and runs Dana off, and then the referee distraction sort of causes him to miss Sasha hitting Charlotte, and then Bayley gets the Bayley to belly and picks up the big win. And I know we bag on this division pretty hard, and I have some critiques of this, like whether Bayley is at that level, or if they're relying still on that belt to make the women, or if all of this is just sort of a vehicle to just, keep pushing us towards that multi-woman main event or whatever. But, I mean, congratulations definitely to Bayley. She great worker, definitely earned it, and I continue also. They have obviously the biggest stage here on Raw, main eventing, another women's title match. Charlotte loses again. When do we finally turn the corner and let Charlotte lose on the big stage? That's the real question.
Yeah, that's a huge question, and I have some questions of my own. And once again, I mean, I want to repeat what you said too. Congratulations to Bayley. This is excellent. I've been a big fan of hers for a long time. Her running NXT, we've seen her grow. We've seen everything she's done. I mean, it sounds cheesy, it sounds corny, and maybe I'm getting too old for this, Paul, but she's the only one that wins a title, and I kind of want to tear up a little bit. And that's a shoot. And it's just because of the fact that I think, man, this journey, everything, how sincere she really is, right? You just know it. We've seen behind the scenes. They've given us that opportunity to see what she's all about. And it's just because, man, they're just a hard worker, comes in, does her job, does everything to get people to love what she is and who she is. And for her to win, it's awesome. The questions I come out of this, though, and ask, and it takes nothing away from her victory, but is this too early? Mm-hmm. Is this a situation where they have some things that they want to change around before they get to Fastlane? Or is this a knee-jerk reaction because we saw Naomi win on SmackDown, at Elimination Chamber, and they got a new champion, and the more popular, I'll be honest with you, the more popular person is no longer the champion, whereas on Charlotte it is kind of like the more popular. The one that people look at and say, wow, great on the mic, doing an excellent job in the ring for the level that they're at right now. And I have those questions circling this, and once again, it doesn't take anything away from what we've seen Bayley do here, but those questions do kind of cloud this picture for me. I really do wonder how they're going to go about this, what they're doing. For me personally, I see this being a trifecta of doom again, because I kind of see Charlotte, Sasha Banks, and of course Bayley mixed up in a triple threat now, eventually. I don't know if it's when or why or how, even if Bayley's not the champion. I kind of see that down the future again, because I think that Sasha helps Bayley here and helps her win the title. I just don't think we're far along from seeing Sasha either get back to being a heel, or for her just saying, look, you're my friend, but you're not when we're in the ring. And when it comes to that title, we're not friends. And so I kind of see that working into this. So I'm a little bit more lost now because Bayley's champion. With Charlotte as champion, you kind of feel like you know the direction. With Bayley as champion, I'm kind of lost.
I don't want to say they're going out on a limb here with Bayley, because Bayley's proven success in NXT and all that stuff, and with the right story and the right build, anything with Bayley I feel like can work, because she's a really good sympathetic face to get behind. Her winning the belt this way, obviously Charlotte has the rematch that they're going to do at Fastlane, you have to think. Sasha's interference teases, I think, a possible heel turn, because Bayley wins because of the distraction, and Bayley, the entire time she's been here, has wanted to prove that she can hang and win the belt without any sort of help, and Sasha is sort of taken away from that now, right? So you have to wonder how that's going to play in, and then you have the looming shadow of Nia Jax over everybody, who has dealt with Sasha pretty easily, and now you have, that sort of thing hanging out over this too, because if Sasha's going to get in, then Nia has to get in. So you have to wonder, with two, possibly three heels working into this and stacking it all against Bayley, if this is the real idea behind the machine of getting Bayley to be that big face that they want. And I don't know if it's going to work, because it feels early. This feels early to me. I don't feel like Bayley was anywhere near the level she was in NXT when she won the belt. And I don't know if enough people are going to care. That hurts to say, but I that's my big fear.
Yeah, and I don't know if I wanted to say that Sasha won it too early either, but I kind of look at Sasha as that whole, maybe the example of how it could be too early, because now you see Sasha flip-flop the title between her and Charlotte, right? And it's great to be able to say former women's champion for both Charlotte and Sasha. It's great. It's nice to have. But when they've had the title so much, now down the line, you've got to have that next thing right. And there's no more chasing. They've been there. They've hit the mountaintop. And now, you've had the person that really needs the fans to get behind her, Bayley. You need the people to want to see her reach that mountaintop. Well, it's happened. So now when you get to WrestleMania, when even past WrestleMania, now no longer are you kind of rooting for her to be a champion, because you're like, well, she's been there, done that. I want to see what else she can do. And you've got to push her a little further here. So I think they kind of took away that chasing journey for us. That the whole, man, she's striving. Every time she gets close, it just comes a little short. And we don't want her to lose all the time. Don't get me wrong. She needs victories. She needs good victories. But it would be kind of fun to see her get some great victories, but she just comes up short. Right before she gets the title, comes up short. And then in a big moment, hits it. That's my problem. I think I'm looking at this saying, okay, well, now she's got the title. What's there for people to get excited about now? She's already champion, so now, you're still trying to get that audience to really care. And just because she has the title, I don't think that's going to grab the audience's attention. It just means that she's got gold around her waist.
Right.
I think the audience needs more.
I completely agree with that, and especially if they're going to go the same track they did with Sasha and Charlotte, where Sasha would win on Raw and then immediately lose it back to Charlotte at the pay-per-view. I feel like you're really cutting the legs out from Bayley from taking away the moment too early now, because it felt like it was almost tailor-made for her to win this at Mania. Whether you think Mania should be the bookend for anything or not anymore, arguably it's your largest stage, and arguably you're going to have your biggest fans of wrestling in WWE there who love Bayley, clearly, because that's what NXT is catered to. And I think you just took away something almost magical about that first title win there.
Yeah, I agree. And, maybe they're doing this. Maybe once again, maybe I'm completely looking at this from a different point of view because it is Bayley. Yeah, maybe Naomi's that one. Maybe Naomi's the one they want to be the crowd, getter, the attention getter. I don't know. Because, this is going to be Naomi's WrestleMania in her hometown. So, and her being the women's champion over there on SmackDown, there may be a plan for that. So Bayley's getting it early. That way, if maybe she even loses it before Mania, something like that, I don't know. But when you're just talking about Raw, we're just talking strictly about what's going on there. I think that this does give us those questions, and that does kind of cloud things a little bit. And maybe the picture's going to get clear, and I hope it does. But I just really want people to get behind Bayley. I really, really do. And I hope that this title win this early doesn't deter her or even kind of stagnate her process and getting higher when it comes to the fans, attention.
Right. I mean, that's pretty much everything we got here for Raw. So the only thing we got left to do is to rate this bad boy. Gary, what you got for it?
This was a episode that, of course, had a fantastic ending because, you do have Bayley winning. That's awesome. Congratulations to her once again. But, I think for the most part, we see a lot of stuff here that does get us down the road, kind of gets us a little bit more of a picture of what we're going to see at Fastlane, all that. Nothing super, super crazy. We had two big moments, Bayley and the Kevin Owens turn. Mm-hmm. That's about it. There's really nothing overly great about this show outside of that, if you ask me. So it's a tough one to rank because I don't think the show was awful. It had its slow parts, especially showing over and over highlights of Kevin Owens and Jericho and all that. I'm like, good Lord, how many highlights can you show? Plus, we had all the other promos. So lots of filler video for this episode, by the way. Lots of it. Plus, you had the Teddy Long, Hall of Fame video.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's just lots of video packages amongst, just some of the wrestling that they had. So I'm going to go with a 6. I don't think the show was awful, but it wasn't exactly the most exciting Raw. They had a couple things here that were very impactful leading into bigger and badder things when it comes to Fastlane, WrestleMania. So I think a 6 is comfortable for me.
I felt like the highs of this show were really high. Samoa Joe, the Festival of Friendship, the women's title match, right? You have the 3 big moments there, and the work in of Sammy to Samoa Joe now that Seth is seemingly on the shelf till WrestleMania. Very good. Everything else is fair to busy work to teasers to too much of something else, right? And that really hurts. I mean, and often as not, that's usually how your Raw goes. If you're even lucky to get the 3 big moments, I'm gonna, because a lot of the big moments feel like they're building to something greater, and that's what I really like here. I'm gonna be a little bit nicer and go 6.5, especially with that women's title match. It is really good, but like I said, highest highs, lowest lows, and the lows were not super terrific. So, the lows were pretty low. So 6.5, I think, is what I'm going to go with here, and I think that that covers it all.
Yeah, and your half point should be mentioned for me too, probably because of Samoa Joe. I'll stay to 6, but that's a good point. I didn't add in Samoa Joe. That was an excellent part of that show. But yeah, that is, Monday Night Raw for this week. We appreciate everybody from coming and checking out this show. It's been exciting and a lot of fun to do. Don't forget, we're going to also have some other great review shows this week. Of course, we'll be doing SmackDown Live, 205 Live, and of course, we'll be having the NXT show also later this week. So you'll want to make sure you go check out those. And of course, our regular episodes of Wrestling to the Max, we'll doing part 1 and part 2 this week. So don't forget to go check those out. And hey, the best way to go do it is go check it out on W2Mnet.com. That's right. You can go find all our podcasts and even written reviews and some other great wrestling content on that website. Along with, hey, if you want to go check us out, maybe on whatever device you listen to us through, go just subscribe to the W2M network. It's the easiest way to get all of our great shows in one place for you. And of course, you can get us right there. Every time we have something out, we'll put it up there and it'll be in your dock waiting for you after it's, concluded. So once again, thank you all for joining us tonight, and we will see you guys down the road.
Have a good one, guys.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.